It actually started as a simple question to the public affairs officer at the weapons station. Anything interesting going on at the base? And he came out with, by the way, we think we may have found a Medal of Honor recipient buried here. There's no other honor that's higher in the service than a Medal of Honor. And to think that there was somebody buried here that had earned the Medal of Honor is pretty incredible. On top of that, to learn that the recipient was born a slave in James City County and literally fought for his freedom during the Civil War was as equally compelling. Our region is just so rich in the military present day, I mean, with all of the servicemen and women we have around here, not to mention there's a lot of Civil War history here. So combining the two with what's going on and the history of it, I think is compelling, and it's just drama. And the characters, the main characters in the series are no longer living, but you kind of get to know them going through old historical documents and talking to their descendants. You get to know them. It's hard not to get personally involved. Here's a man, Edward Ratcliffe. He was born a slave on a farm in James City County, and as his family tells the story, he left the plow in the field and arrived in Yorktown and enlisted in the military to literally fight for his freedom. And in the process of fighting for his freedom, he did something so courageous and so brave that he earned a Congressional Medal of Honor. Only 16 black men fighting in the Civil War earned that award, and he's one of them, and he's from here. How do you not find yourself getting vested in that story?
He was with the 38th Regiment, and actually, I can remember she told me after the commanding officer was wounded, that he'd taken command of the troops.
That's what former James City County slave turned Civil War Union hero Edward Ratcliffe's 84-year-old grandson remembers hearing about his grandfather.
And he was a slave that he was up on the Hankins farm, up in the upper part of James City County.
And as the story has been passed down by family members, when Edward Ratcliffe was 28 years old, he put down his plow at the Hankins plantation in James City and walked to Yorktown to enlist in the Union Army. By January 28, 1864, Edward was no longer a slave. He was a private in the Army of the United States.
We had a picture in the house of him when I went in service. And you could see him, he had his uniform on, he was real tall in that picture, I can remember that.
During one of the major battles that helped open the door to the Confederate capital in Richmond, Edward Ratcliffe became one of only 16 black men in the war to earn a Medal of Honor. After the war, while the South attempted to come to grips with its defeat, Ratcliffe returned to the peninsula and settled his growing family in York County, where they lived free until his death in 1915.
To be related with someone like that, you know, it makes you feel like I'm walking on air, but because it's something that you don't see or hear every day.
There's probably nobody who knew less about the Civil War than I, until I saw the movie Glory. And I think it affected me like it did, I know, a number of other people.
Wesley Wilson is referring to his reenactor compatriots and the movie that depicted the all-black unit of the 54th Regiment of the Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, whose valiant efforts increased the Union's faith in the U.S. colored troops. Wilson's interest in living history inspired him to become a member of the Richmond-based reenactment group of the 38th U.S. Colored Troops.
The living historian who, instead of attempting to portray a battle as such or to reenact an encampment or so, we, as I have done, try to study a particular individual and try to live the time through that person and then convey those feelings to other people.
He adopted an original member of the troop as a research project, Edward Radcliffe, who was one of only 16 black men to earn the Medal of Honor in the Civil War.
This was essentially homeboy against homeboy, which the Civil War was all about, except that one was black and the other was white, which made it a whole different scenario. In Radcliffe's case, he came back and lived in York County and in Lackey area until his death.
Radcliffe is buried in the Cheesecake Cemetery in an area called the Reservation before it became property of Yorktown Naval Weapons Station.
When the federal sector took over that property, they essentially displaced all those folks and they went wherever they could go. But they certainly didn't do anything about trying to move the bodies.
5 years ago, when Wilson began his research, he was told that the cemetery was in a restricted area and most of the gravestones had been knocked off and that Radcliffe's tombstone was no longer standing. Wilson then made it his mission to make sure that Edward Radcliffe was properly recognized.
All my family was buried there.
And in the current public relations officer at Yorktown Naval Weapons Station, Jim Kemp, Wilson has found a compatriot.
He was on a parallel path, and we weren't aware that each other exists.
It's always been kept up. The Naval Weapons Station has, I think, 6 or 7 cemeteries on the base. We have quite a few cemeteries, and we maintain them all like this. We mow them and keep them regular. We have a lot of visitors that come to the cemetery. Family members come back and want to see them.